So word on the street is they're talking about making Constantine 2. You know, the one with Keanu Reeves from way back when. But here's the deal. With all the changes happening in the DC universe and new plans in the works, it might be better to let that sequel idea rest in peace. Now, Constantine is a big shot in the magical world of DC, rubbing elbows with other cool characters like those from Vertigo and the Justice League Dark crew. Chances are he's gonna pop up somehow in the upcoming DC movie reboot. But here's the kicker. With James Gunn taking the spotlight in the DC universe and cooking up some exciting projects, it might be best if he's the one and only Constantine in town. Sure, they're saying they're still working on that sequel, but even after all these years, let's be real. The DC brand needs a bit more oomph right now, especially with the recent movies making waves. Now, before we get into anything else, there is one thing that I want to mention. Constantine 2 must confront a significant character transformation. John Constantine's decision to quit smoking, a pivotal development at the conclusion of the 2005 film. The sequel, picking up where its predecessor left off, faces the challenge of addressing this significant shift in John's behavior. In the DC Comics narratives, Constantine is portrayed as a habitual smoker facing the consequences in the afterlife. After saving the world at the expense of his own life and nearly entering heaven, Lucifer cures John's terminal lung cancer with the ulterior motive of claiming his soul. The movie concludes with John having switched to nicotine gum, symbolizing the profound impact of his experiences. This alteration becomes a crucial element for Constantine 2, another film featuring Keanu Reeves with a blend of horror and superhero elements. While Constantine made various modifications to John, such as changing his nationality from English to American, his chain smoking remains a core element derived from the comic book backstory, serving as a tool for character development in the film. Constantine 2 faces the pivotal decision of whether John has successfully overcome his smoking habit when the story resumes. This is not merely a matter of maintaining continuity between movies, but revolves around the specific circumstances of John's cessation, integral to his narrative and personal growth in the initial film. Throughout most of Constantine, John grapples with the imminent threat of death from terminal lung cancer. Reeves portrays a more embittered version of the character compared to Max Ryan's sardonic depiction in Legends of Tomorrow. However, by the film's conclusion, John undergoes a transformation, freed from the prospect of hell, and is granted a second chance as Lucifer eradicates his cancer. Although Lucifer's intentions are far from altruistic, John seizes this opportunity for positive change. As Constantine 2 is set to unfold nearly 2 decades after its predecessor, it faces the dilemma of how to address John's decision to quit smoking. Reintroducing his smoking habit poses a challenge to his character progression, considering the significant growth he experienced in his first film. While John's chain smoking is a defining characteristic, reverting to this habit would signify a regression in his personal development. The sequel may be tempted to depict John Constantine with a cigarette, especially if it aligns with a potential integration into the DCEU, requiring a clear character arc. However, given John's resolute commitment to quitting in the preceding film, the wisest choice for Constantine 2 would be for him to continue using nicotine gum, staying true to his determined decision to quit smoking. Now, besides this, let's be real. The first Constantine movie wasn't exactly a spot-on adaptation of the comics. I mean, they went with just Constantine instead of the cool Hellblazer title, and they made quite a few tweaks to the main guy himself. In the comics, John Constantine is this blonde dude from Liverpool who's not your typical magic expert, more like a street-smart troublemaker with serious magical know-how. Plus, his whole vibe is grungy and far from your typical hero. He's more like an anti-hero dealing with his own messed up choices. Comic book Constantine even gets sent to hell for his wild ways. Now, compare that to the movie version, and it's like they took a whole different path. The film Constantine doesn't really capture what Hellblazer fans loved about the comics. Changes everywhere. Instead of the usual sassy Brit, the movie version of Constantine was this dark-haired American guy with a bit less sarcasm going on. They made his ties to the occult and magical skills more obvious, and get this, the reason he got condemned to hell was from doing something heroic. Quite the twist, right? But here's the thing, this Constantine wasn't as charming and witty as the comic book version we all know. That devilish charisma? A bit lacking. The punk edge? Not so much. In the movie, Constantine kind of throws in the towel on his fate, which is a far cry from the comic where he's always sticking it to his enemies. It left fans feeling a bit meh about the whole deal, although some have warmed up to it over time. Retroactive reception, you know? Another is the time gap. The first Constantine came out back in 2005, and honestly, it kind of faded into the background among all the comic book movies of that time. Now they're saying they're still planning a sequel, but hold on, it probably won't hit the screens until at least 2025. That's like a 2-decade gap between the two movies, which is a pretty long time. Now, having a 20-year break can work for some nostalgia projects, you know, like bringing back old favorites. But here's the thing, it's not always a guaranteed success. Take The Flash, for example, banking on Michael Keaton's Batman return. The Batman movies with Keaton have real nostalgia vibes, but Constantine? Not so much. It's got a bit of a cult following now, but let's be real, most people out there probably don't even remember it. Trying to make a sequel a big deal after all this time is like pushing a boulder uphill. Mainstream audiences have moved on, and it might not be a cheap movie to make. The first Constantine movie, based on a not-so-mainstream comic, had a budget ranging from $70 to $100 million. Fast forward to today, anything with a similar scale is likely to cost even more, turning into a financial roller coaster. Now, DC and Warner Bros. Discovery aren't exactly in the mood for risky financial moves, especially after recent DC movies. Even the well-liked Blue Beetle didn't quite hit the jackpot at the box office. This all points to the fact that James Gunn's DC Universe has some serious brand rebuilding to do. The plan is probably to get it right, and with a more faithful take on Constantine, rather than taking another roll of the dice on a potentially pricey sequel to the 2005 version. It's all about playing it smart and bringing the brand back to life. The DC Universe would benefit from having its own version of Hellblazer rather than pursuing Constantine 2. Aligning the continuity of Constantine 2 with upcoming DC Universe movies like Superman Legacy seems highly improbable. Even if it were feasible, James Gunn appears inclined to present a more faithful portrayal of John Constantine in the new DCU, aligning with the comic's depiction. The overarching goal of the new DC Universe is to showcase characters like Superman in a more traditional manner, departing from the previous DC Extended Universe approach. Given this objective, there's little justification for linking the universe to a divergent and unrecognizable interpretation of Constantine. An alternative could be releasing Constantine 2 as an Elseworlds movie, a strategy employed for sequels to Joker and the Batman. However, these instances might be exceptions, as the Elseworlds brand may have been introduced due to the success of their predecessors and their experimental, prestigious nature. Unlike those films, a sequel to 2005's Constantine is unlikely to carry the same aura, making it challenging to find a suitable place for Constantine 2 in the current cinematic landscape. Furthermore, Constantine lacks the widespread popularity of iconic characters like Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman, making it difficult for his personal brand to sustain multiple divergent takes simultaneously, unlike Batman. Additionally, the overall status of the DC movie brand is currently less than ideal. Despite positive reviews, movies associated with DC are experiencing subpar box office returns, largely due to the prevailing perception of being DC movies. The success of films like Superman Legacy and other DCU releases could eventually help shift this perception, but the process is expected to be gradual. Only when DC Studios establishes major successes, including iconic characters like Superman, will the brand reach its peak popularity. It is during this pinnacle that even a faithful Hellblazer movie could be successfully launched. Considering the circumstances, there's a possibility that Constantine 2, if it still comes to fruition, could be released as an Elseworlds movie. However, it's worth noting that the film may have passed its prime, given the need for DC Studios to prioritize building up their more prominent franchises first. Well, that's it. For now, make sure that you like our video. Please share your views in the comments section with us. Subscribe to the channel to get updated, and do not forget to hit the bell icon to never miss an update. Thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you at the next one.